Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Based on a True Story. I'm Matt Baxter.
Hi, everyone. I'm Karen Stolzner,
And I'm allegedly Blake Smith.
allegedly. I've always been suspicious myself.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about a movie that is based on a true story, and it's about a goofball ghost hunter with spiked hair and a black shirt.
Yeah, it looks a little like you. But
always hated that.
do want to add that we have treated this topic from the story of the original case, which is the Ammons haunting, or the House of 500 Demons, the new Amityville. There are lots of different names for it, but if you want, you can go and check out that episode before you watch this. And I think with this episode, instead of going into the movie and then looking at the true story behind it, I think we should really focus on the movie because we've already treated the real happenings.
Yeah, let's
get a solid 50 minutes of deep dive in the regular podcast episode. So yeah.
Absolutely. And this is such a step away from the original story because it's a new story of its own. It's a story of how the house really effed up Zak Bagans, and so I think
it had to be a different story, and we will be getting into the reasons why. But
absolutely,
yeah, I think we should go through the film. So this is a 2018 film, I believe. So Demon House. And it starts with Zak's dream. Matt, do you want to kind of recap that for us?
So this dream that he has is he is hanging out with some other spirits. He's a spirit. He's hanging out with some other spirits, and he's showing him how he figured out this cool trick of being able to move something, without touching it. Much like he tries to get ghosts to do in his popular Travel Channel show, Ghost Adventures.
A lot of self-advertising and self-promotion.
He does a little bit. So all of a sudden, this 12-foot tall goat man comes walking in and blows black smoke into Zak Bagans' mouth. And it really touched him. Really made him feel like something was crazy. And then all of a sudden, some time later, that's they're obviously related somehow. A news story comes up about the Ammons haunting, and so he connects it, and it's he calls them up and buys the house sight unseen.
Well, I want to add that from the story, the way he recounted it, it sounded like classic sleep paralysis to me, that he saw this shadowy creature that he figured was a demon. So that's what that sounded like. And yes, he does buy the house sight unseen for $35,000, which is actually, or was, a lot for that house. I think probably double what it was worth at the time. And a week later, he arrives with a film crew. And
so no money grab.
Oh, not yet, but he had spoken with a friend of his who was a psychic, I believe, or a clairvoyant by the name of Chris Fleming.
Yes, Chris Fleming. We all know Chris Fleming.
And he said to Zak, or he basically warned him and said, look, I see this 12-foot tall demon around you, hanging around you. So that cleaved in with Zak's dream, nightmare, and his feeling that somehow he was attracted to the house was calling him.
Yes. One of the interesting things is that the movie starts off with one of those disclaimers in the front that basically says
that they do.
Some people are susceptible to demons attaching themselves. So even through electronically. So watch this at your own risk.
You're imperiled if you see it. And you are, I would say, imperiled a little bit if there is a risk.
It is,
yeah.
To your intelligence.
I mean, Well, and you might have been able to do something more productive with your time, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
questions.
Well, but I think that is really priming for people who believe in this kind of thing to hear that.
Oh yeah,
That really sets the scene, and you're in for a treat.
Oh, reading the reviews is a joy on this, because it is shocking on the trailers. All of the positive comments about this movie and how scary it is, and I was a skeptic before, and I love that line. That's just the best.
Well, yeah. We certainly hear that a lot, but he starts the film anyway with the Ammons story. And this is going back a couple of years because that's to 2011. He didn't purchase the house until I think 2014. And so he tracks down the Ammons. So he recaps the story, what happened or what allegedly happened to them. And then he wants to find them. They've moved from Gary, Indiana to Indianapolis. And he tracks them down. And I thought this was an example of stalking, the way that he does it. I don't know if it was him or one of his cronies, but they came across a news clip where Latoya Ammons was talking to a reporter about something completely unrelated. I think it was something to do with mold,
Black mold.
black mold in the apartment that she was living in. And you see her standing on the stoop next to the number of the house. And so they tracked her down. And I thought that was really dodgy, really stalker behavior to go and do that.
It really seemed like it, and at the same time, it seemed like he was giving everybody watching the ability to go do the same thing, doxing her.
Her. Yeah. So they travel there to see Latoya and knock on the door, and she refuses to see them. And we're led to believe that she thinks that Zak is possessed because he's associated with the house and he's spent time in the house. That's how it's portrayed to us.
Yes,
and,
we'll call that fancy editing.
And her brother Kevin comes out and speaks to Zak. Oh, hey, I know you from TV. And so they get talking, and he actually goes for a drive with Zak and the camera crew, and they get chatting, and he tells some stories and kind of recaps again the same stories from 2011. And then when they take him back home, Latoya refuses to allow him back into the house because he's had all of this contact with Zak, and so he's obviously got some kind of attachment now. He's picked up something. The words they used were something dark transferred from me, being Zak, to Kevin. So they won't let him back in.
And the handshake had to have a freeze frame and a nice heavy reverb drum hit.
And a repeat at the end of the film to remind you that that's what's happened, So.
Indeed. But yes. I think we can already give a spoiler at this point, because Zak pretty much goes into the explanation there pretty quickly. Basically, Latoya has a contract with someone else, with a producer or a film company. And we now know that that's Netflix, that they've purchased this story for $65 million. And what a
which is more than the value of the house by quite a bit.
Yeah, just a little.
Exponential. And I just think it's fascinating, this grab for this house and for this story, that, and this position that Zak is in, where he owns the house, but Netflix owns the people and the story.
Yeah.
Their stories. And
we should clarify, it's a $65 million production, but she didn't get $65 million. Just to clarify,
she got a new haircut, new.
She got some money. Yeah,
some new nails and
good for her.
But certainly at the end of this, we'll explain, what happened. And I'm still so croaky from this last cold.
No worries.
But how. I'll repeat myself. So at the end of this, we will discuss what Zak did, how he took charge of the situation, what he did to overcome that. But then basically it goes into some interviews with a couple of the main characters here. So Matt, do you want to tell us a little bit about the priest and the cop? Sounds like a bad joke, right?
Oh, my Lord. So yeah, a priest and a cop walk into a haunted house, and let's talk about the cop too. He was what was his title? Well, his name
Oh,
was Charles Austin, but he was like
Was
something.
he like the chief detective? He was higher up than a
He was
regular
a
beat
higher
cop.
up, yeah.
Yeah.
But he was like shift chief or something like I can't remember.
but
Something like that.
it's a bit
Yeah.
of a one-horse town there as well.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And he immediately comes across as a very huge, big time believer in this stuff and very heavily affected by everything. So walks in, sees crucifixes and everything, and starts getting very weird feelings about all of it. So the interesting thing, however, is that he is there. Anytime a camera's there, he's there and he's ready to be on camera and
He's a
tell
bit of
how
a media whore.
yeah, he likes to tell how crazy everything is, and he's ready with his view on all of it. So it's kind of interesting. And then we
Yeah.
have
I was gonna say he was a 36-year veteran of the police force.
Wow.
And it looks like he passed away in 2021. So
Oh, really? Oh, that
was
yeah.
he
So
near the vacant lot?
I'm not sure. It doesn't say that. Yeah.
oh, Matt, you're gonna have to
Oh, I will
edit
edit
that bit
that out.
out.
Yeah, that's for us.
But he did assist Zach, I think, initially with some squatters that were in the house. So the Ammons
Yes.
family moved, and then another family moved in, and then Zach bought the house from, I think his name was Charles Reed,
Mm-hmm.
and discovered that there were some squatters in the house, and so Zach paid them off. And of course, then there was a boyfriend and a girlfriend, and the girlfriend claimed nothing happened here, which is in
Yeah.
line with previous tenants, whereas some previous tenants, whereas the boyfriend said, "Oh no, that's just her story. I've seen a
But
lot." But
when did he say that?
well, after he'd already been paid to leave, he was then saying, "We're going to have to sit down and negotiate how much it's going to cost for me to tell you
Yeah.
what I've experienced."
Yeah, so there's a market for this, so we're gonna have to
He
talk about it.
did say there's a market for this. Yeah. Suddenly he became a real expert in deals, the art of the deal.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
That's
very
that
interesting.
that is yeah, it is. It is. It's like, well, as soon as you see there's money on the story, it does make sense that you'd want to get paid. I don't know if that has anything to do with the veracity of the story, but it would certainly inspire you to do better storytelling if there was thousands of dollars at stake, or even
But
hundreds, probably.
I have to say that we've all done interviews for television and for podcasts and just various shows, and they don't pay you. I mean, the most that they'll do is pay for your accommodation or flight if they have to ship you from one place to another, but they don't pay you. I
Yeah.
mean, there's no checkbook journalism when it comes to this kind of
Right.
thing,
You're getting paid
unless
in
there's an ulterior
exposure.
motive.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
visibility
Okay.
and all
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
this is where the film gets interesting or doesn't get interesting because it becomes Zach's own investigation. And this is where it really just parts ways with the original story. And I mean, I will give the story credit for that. I guess he had to take a different angle because the story's been sold to Netflix. But he really makes the movie his own with his own investigation. And basically, this investigation starts when, and I thought this was really weirdly fortuitous, when previous tenants just happened to be driving past when, Zach of Ghost Adventures has purchased the house and, is doing all of this filming. They suddenly turn up, a woman and her 3 kids. And of course, Zach points out that Latoya had 3 kids as well. So it's like the demons focusing on this particular kind of family dynamic. And so he has them come through the house. And I guess I really think he tracked them down. I don't think that they just turned
Drove
up.
by. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I think that what he was doing here is he was trying to find a replacement for the Ammons family.
Yeah.
And he found them. And I mean, it's a possibility that they had lived there. There's a picture of the lady sitting on the porch on the front step years before. For all we know, she could have been visiting a friend. It's really hard to say whether it's true or not. But Matt, do you want to go into their experiences and the basement?
Well, right. They came in the house, and you know, and Zach's doing is like, are you sure you want to come into this house? You know,
After all that you've
it's a
gone through.
risk. Yeah, it's a risk. You know, a lot of people have been messed up. Are you sure you're giving your children permission to come in? Okay, this is on you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they come in and they're looking around. She's like, "Oh, I remember this was my bedroom," and you know, all this kind of stuff. And the kids are just kind of looking around and
They're kind
checking
of
the
bored, I
blinds
think.
and stuff. But we need to
They're
talk about the
bored.
blinds here shortly. Uh, and soon they decide to go downstairs where all the action is, because this woman does not like the basement, because there is a bedroom down there where her brother used to stay. It was his bedroom. And she had a dream that somebody was going to die. And then later he was shot and killed, not in his room down there, but he was shot and killed. And nobody would listen to her when she said someone was going to die, because that's so specific.
Well, I'd like to say that I think it's really sad, and I really feel for her when she tells us that story. And at the same time, as we discussed in the Monster Talk regular podcast episode about this, it was the murder capital of America. So much crime,
Yeah.
so much
Yeah.
homicide in that
Yeah.
place. So even though it's very sad, it's unfortunately not uncommon.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a strange, they go downstairs and they start, you know, talking about the different areas, and ooh, they're feeling weird about this and that. One of the girls passes by the mother, and she's like, "Don't kick me. No, I didn't kick you. I was nowhere near you." And then they like show the video of her walking past again, and she clearly could have accidentally brushed her foot. But
That
no,
was
it was
straight out of Ghost
something
Adventures,
else.
that.
Yeah, it was something else that kicked her. Uh, so they kind of started like doing freeze frames on one of the daughters in particular.
We knew something was going to happen.
Yeah, we knew something, because I think she said something along the lines of, you know, so is the demon's gonna stay here or is gonna leave, and you know, and there's like,
Well, we
you
do
know,
need a content warning though with this.
content warning.
Yeah,
There it
content
is.
warning. The discussion of people taking or attempting to take
Oh,
their
suicide
lives.
content warning. Yes.
Yeah.
Because yeah, later that's the big thing that happens, I guess you could say. So I'm sorry, I'm going to look
Well,
something up here really quickly.
Well, they basically they walk around for a while, and when they leave, I think it's the boy. He stands there and he's kind of transfixed, looking at the house. And Zach comments and says, "What's wrong with him? What's up with him?" So you think that maybe something's going to happen with him, but it ends up
Right.
being something happening to the young girl. And yeah, she attempts to take her own life, and they attribute that to her spending time in the house, all 30 minutes of the time that she was there. And so
Yeah.
this brings back in Michael Maginot, the priest, to perform an exorcism on her.
Yeah, and that's
Because,
a fun one.
well, it is like he's mirroring the Ammons story, because Latoya had a number of exorcisms performed on her, both minor and major. So it really is, again, I think, Zach trying to take the kernel of the story and to repeat it with another family. And also, I think, to follow in that same tradition and say, this is what's happening to anyone who's lived here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That narrative of oppression / possession is so common. And it, you know, we say content warning, but I mean, the way these kind of stories trivialize the serious mental health issues around self-harm is disturbing, to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the
yeah.
idea that you go get an exorcism instead of seeing a mental health professional, you know, that's
Well, yeah,
also
I think
disturbing. So
you could tell just from their appearance that there were some problems within the family. And so I think it went a lot deeper than just spending some time in the demon house.
Exactly. Exactly. But they really played on it. And the thing is I found this funny because they had the scene where we didn't know exactly what was going on yet. But the scene was Zach walking up to the front door of the church. And then suddenly it showed the priest on the inside getting up and walking over to let him in. and Zach goes to the wrong door, which is locked, and the priest opens the correct door. And it's like Zach would have known exactly which door because the camera was already in there with the priest. So it's not like they were just arriving for the first time, but they
It gave
wanted
it
to
a
make
reality
it,
TV.
yeah, it gave that reality kind of thing of, oh, Zach made a
feel.
mistake, he went to the wrong door. But
Mm.
then that's when we see a whole big entourage comes in with him, with the girl that needs the exorcism. And this exorcism, the priest went and back, and I'm assuming this is just an assumption that he smoked a big doobie and came back out as Bob Dylan and performed the most weak exorcism I've ever heard. He stands like
From
way
a
up,
strange book too.
yeah, like exorcisms for dummies or something. But it's he's got the girl sitting like in the middle aisle, or in the middle, where the walkway of the church between the pews, way down there, and he's standing up by the steps to go up to the altar, and he's standing there going, and then the Christ said, and
like a rolling stone.
yeah, I mean, it was just really bad. And then he slowly gets a little closer, and any demon would not be intimidated by this, because that's the whole point of an exorcism, is you're intimidating the demon with your command and your power of Christ, within you. And this guy had nothing.
But then
it
affects her. Then it affects her, right?
Oh, yeah, she goes I mean, it's like they made it look like she was
it did look like she was going to laugh at one point.
But that's what it looked like. She was going to laugh, and then she just goes,
yeah,
and that, yay, it's done, exorcism's over. But the fun part is the demon was Beelzebub that possessed her.
Well, I
We
don't
talked
remember
about
saying
that.
that. Did they say that? Because I know that was the case with the Ammons. I missed that. That is interesting.
They said it was Beelzebub.
But let's go back.
There's a great quote from The Exorcist, though, that says, she says that she's possessed by that she is the devil, and that's like saying she's Napoleon Bonaparte.
Yes.
Yeah, Beelzebub. Hey, I'm.
He's a superstar, right? Yeah. It's
very strange, but
trying to grab that demonic cachet. It's like what do they call it? Not influence, clout. It's demon clout.
Yeah,
cloven
clout.
cloven clout.
Let's get back to the house now. Yeah, let's get back to the house. So back at the house, they've set up an altar, and it looks like a little card table or something with a cross and maybe some incense. Could be a kind of Wiccan thing for all we know.
I'm incense.
Very convincing.
Excuse me.
Okay.
You're oppressed. You're demonically oppressed. It affects us
can't
through
get the demon out.
Dreaming.
I'm demonically impressed.
Let me have a sip. So it's at this point that the house begins to have an effect on Zach, and he has his first of several angry outbursts. And I laugh because
it's
he's
hilarious.
not a terribly good actor. He's not very good at acting. And
see, this is him grabbing, just out of the blue, he grabs one of the cameraman, and he's like, "Oh, okay, just go with it, dude, just go with it." And because this is on a security camera, that it captures him grabbing the cameraman for no reason and basically saying, get out of here. And then he throws the guy out and then says, what the fuck just happened?
What just happened?
So it was just great.
So really, it's really pathetic. And so at that point, he needs to bring in the big guns. So who does he bring in? Yeah, Matt's old friend Barry Taff.
I had never seen Barry Taff before this. I mean, I knew his name. We've obviously talked about him with the entity, and it's like, for some reason, and this is sorry, Barry, I don't know you, but I really thought you were
I
going to
do.
be more professional than this. He comes across as just a reality TV person, and
Mhm.
that, you know.
Yeah, another media
Yeah,
horror.
so-
But I think, Matt, you're going to talk us through this section, this part of the investigation, and the ghost hunting. So now we get into the meat of the ghost hunting.
Yeah. Barry comes walking, and of course, it's very snowy outside. So he comes walking up,
Yeah.
looking a bit like Maggie Simpson.
Oh, his big
in his
overcoat. Yeah,
big coat and
not
everything. And
not
he's
as cute.
he's
No,
he was kind of cute, I mean,
Statue of Liberty.
yeah,
head.
because I think he's 4'5". I don't know, but it's like him having to look up at Zach the whole time made me feel like he was really hurting his neck and possibly caused an infection that can come into play later. But no, he comes up, and I don't want to make fun of his height, because there's so many things to make fun of him about that have nothing to do with that. uh I'll edit all that out too. But um he gets there, and yeah, he does almost immediately go, oh yeah, there's something here, but let's get scientific about it. And he pulls out a natural EMF meter, which is going to, it's going to measure the geomagnetic fields, as Zach explains it, and how they're coming up and they're influencing people and what they see. So yeah, great. They're baseline. I mean, it's fine. That with the levels of
have you noticed
magnetic stuff is fine.
they always use analog meters too? They always, so you can see
Yeah.
the needle going back and forth. They never use
Mhm.
digital, it seems like. So
Very
you can
Right.
see.
effective.
Well, this
Yeah, it's
one,
very
this one was
cinematic.
a newer one, and it was digital, but they barely showed it all. He's like, it's a little higher than I would want it to be, but it's pretty normal.
Oh, I was thinking about later on, he's holding up the meter.
Later
It's
on,
his-
he's got
his-
the AC meter.
Yeah.
And the AC,
Yeah, yeah,
and that's
what I'm thinking
that
of.
one
Sorry.
is so painful to watch, because an AC meter picks up man-made electricity. So
Human-made.
Human-made. Thank you, Karen. It picks up human-made electricity, and the funny thing about it,
I just realized that was a gender thing, not a demonic versus human thing. Sorry.
right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Same diff.
it is human-made, not demon-made. That's more the
Right.
Geo one can do that. So what you're going to get from that is nothing having to do with anything that could be potentially spiritual. It's just AC electric currents, and if there's problems, it's also good at picking up if there's too much of a field. But what they did is he talked about how low the geomagnetic fields would register, in terms of milligauss and all that kind of stuff. And then he switches without really saying anything to an AC, which is a much higher level in terms of Gauss. And they're suddenly in the basement now. They were upstairs with the one, and now suddenly they're in the basement. No explanation other than, whoa, it's going crazy and it's so high. And it really wasn't that high. But the thing that tipped me off about it, he would put it up to Zach, and they've got all this electronic, cameras and sound equipment and everything surrounding them. But the big thing is Zach and Barry's microphones are clip-ons, and they're wireless. They have a little wireless pack that sends signals in packets. And so it goes, the meter goes as it's picking up this wireless signal. And every time
Not a demon.
Zach, he's just demonizing the whole room. It was just ridiculous to watch this. And but when he takes it away and puts it against a concrete wall, there's nothing,
But like, this is a foreshadowing, right? This is a foreshadowing.
Because so this is
they've
proving
detected the demon.
Zach is feeling the demon come back up again.
Possessed.
He is a very possessive kind of guy. And
this is my favorite part of the movie.
It is good. He makes the most weak ass lunge at Barry Taff. Well, Barry's got his back turned.
Like this old man.
Barry never knows. He doesn't even know this ever
little
happens.
guy.
Yeah, and this, this is all planned, obviously. And there he is. That's his lunge, his big lunge at Barry.
It's like,
and then it's like he puts his hands in his pockets and walks away, because he has control over this issue.
Oh yeah, he's
Um,
he's got willpower.
That's a
Will
good shot too, because you can see the where they've mounted all these infrared cameras. They've mounted
Mhm.
cameras all over the house so that
Mm,
later
Yep.
on in the film, when they've run out of things to say, we could just
Mhm.
have lots and lots of shots of an empty house or
Uh-huh.
people walking around.
Yep.
So
Or
Mhm.
different shots of Zach lunging. But
Yeah.
So what
yeah,
happens
but when it's
next?
important,
Because
what happened even before that though, is or it may have been after. I'm trying to think. I think it was after, because Barry started feeling very sick and needed to go. So it may have been before that. But we see this entity form out of the side of the camera view.
yeah, that's after the lunge.
Yeah, so that's after the lunge, because yeah, he starts
when you
feeling
say
really
the
bad.
entity formed, are you talking about the dark spot in the video they keep talking about?
Yes, that looks a
Yes.
little
The
penis-like.
like a microphone or a finger or
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
an appendage of some kind.
Yes, an appendage of some kind. It, sort of comes off the side, because what they don't really utilize all that well, they try to utilize it, but they don't really show it, is all of the infrared, security cameras view of this, because then you could probably get a better look. But yeah, we see the little boom mic on the side of the camera. And if they've got light coming from kind of behind and to the side, that as he's walking by, that boom camera is going to make a shadow. But no, it actually has to be. I mean, it wasn't even a shadow; it was just a blur, because it was close. So yeah, it was just absolutely bizarre. The things that were causing all of these possessions
Well,
that in normal life
but
don't cause possessions.
but immediately after that, Taft's ear starts to bleed,
Mm-hmm.
and very soon thereafter, he's taken to hospital, and all of his organs start shutting down.
Which that's such a great phrase that gets overused.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, their organs started shutting down. So in other words, they had a problem, because
Oh yeah, he
often
said
when
his
one thing is being
bladder
affected,
and his
bladder and his
kidneys.
kidneys and yeah, his
Yeah.
epiglottis and duodenum, all these things just started shutting down, brain cells. So it was definitely getting rough for him. But we started noticing a few things. But I want to take this back a little bit, back to the Ammons, because when Latoya first talked about her son, from the footage that I saw, she talked about her 7-year-old son running up the wall and doing a backflip in the hospital. Okay.
Mm.
Then suddenly it became their 9-year-old son walked backward up the wall and then did a flip over, I think, the grandmother or something, and landed on the floor.
Grandmother, yeah, holding his hands.
Yeah. So I want to look at a couple of things here really quickly. You can go onto YouTube and see so many of these videos of kids doing parkour in their backyard and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a strange thing. Kids really get into this kind of thing, and like here is a video that I'll show really quickly of a guy who teaches how to do this kind of a stunt.
Wow. Oh.
And this was the original description of what he did.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
And well, I would
Oh,
say,
did you like
I
the
would
Mario
venture
Brothers?
to say that wouldn't it
did.
be a little easier for a 9-year-old to
To
do
do
this
something like this?
in terms
Absolutely.
of being limber
And
than
he's,
being an adult?
yeah.
I mean, it's not something
Well,
any of us could do
And he's
as
right
well.
next to a bed and everything else. And so, yeah, it
Yeah.
wouldn't be that hard to do. But then we've got that walking up the wall backwards, because that becomes suddenly more difficult, because I think people were saying on the news things, oh, well, that's not that uncommon for someone to be able to do a stunt like that. They're on
Yeah.
YouTube, they're talking, you can learn how to do this in 12 minutes. Now, I couldn't, but I bet you Blade could, my son, he could do it in no time. So we've got this whole backwards thing. Now, they call Jackie Chan the king of parkour, but there's nothing really that he can do that someone else can't do as well. And this has been one that has been fairly popular. Wow, look at that, walking up a wall backwards.
Fantastic.
And the thing is what was the kid doing? He was holding on to grandma's hands.
Yep.
Mm.
In the
So-
clip,
Yep.
they actually show it looked completely like something I could get earlier when my kids were younger and smaller. They could have done easily when they were, in
Oh,
their
yeah.
9 to
and
10.
I do have a little video of me doing this with Blade, but it's very short. But what you're talking about in particular is this little grab. So yeah, I just did want to kind of bring this up before we move on too far. So yeah, this is the
Yes.
reenactment.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's it even kind of looks like she's holding on with some
Holding him,
strength there.
stabilizing him.
Yeah. Given the support. Yeah.
But you also notice the discoloration up here where they had to erase the wires and such.
Maybe.
so-
Well,
but yeah,
but the other thing is the kids, I don't think this is digital. The reenactor kids are also rolling their eyes up in their head and saying weird noises. And it's like, yeah, because kids can do that all the time. You don't need to
I
have a
did.
demon. Yeah, I mean, it's just I grew
Kids
up with
are
kids who could
demons.
roll their eyes up. I was never very good at it myself, but so many of my peers growing up could roll their eyes up, and it was quite disturbing.
oh
And
yeah,
I was a little jealous. So
Well, we will get
Yeah.
into that a little bit later as well, talking about eye rolling. Not only
I don't think I could get anything. It's ridiculous. I don't think that even looks right, right?
it's freaking me out either way.
it seemed like you were
Yeah.
temporarily possessed. But let's go back to the hotel.
Oh, to the hotel. So
And this is where things get
Repossessed.
interesting.
yes. So the first shot we see of Zach and the hotel. Now, okay, let's be kind about this because he said this movie took him 3 years to film. And so he probably didn't have the same room the entire time. But
Right.
the first time he's talking, this is well into the filming, the first time he takes us back to the hotel room. And it is this little room. It's just a real short, kind of a hard to see clip of the room, but it looks like a typical hotel room with, kind of the white lamp. You got the thermostat, you got the smoke detector, a little chair
Kind of a
there.
mid-range hotel.
Exactly. And yeah, so no big deal, but that's where he's at, where he's doing a little video conference with the social worker who just left the case and left her career because it affected her so badly.
Valerie Washington.
And yes, Valerie Washington. And I feel bad for her for that because I think she was good at her job. But then we have a little later, he's talking about going back to the hotel again because one of the other cameramen started losing his mind a little bit. So they're going back to the hotel and they show this drone shot of the hotel. Okay, this is where they go. Okay, no problem there. And we did see, we looked it up and we see exactly
tracked
where
it
it
down.
is. Yeah, we tracked it down.
So it's not
And
in Gary because Gary is very small.
it is a Hilton Garden Inn. Now that
I
first
love
picture,
those.
yeah, that
Yeah,
first
they're-
picture that we showed you,
comfy.
yeah, the first picture we showed you was actually from this hotel. That's where they were staying, was in there. And
that's in Maryville.
yeah, let me see, is
So that's
right there, Maryville.
yeah. So it's down from down from Gary.
Yeah, it
Gary's
looks
kind
like
of
it's
close
about
to the
2 inches from
lake.
Gary.
yeah.
So it wasn't too far of a drive. So they're saying we went back to the hotel. Great. They went back to the hotel. So we're going to see more of this particular room where this guy is freaking out. And the guy really he's
he
losing
freaks out in that there's something in the elevator, and they've all got their iPhones and they're all filming, but they don't film the elevator.
Yeah.
They don't film the elevator, and yet they're filming this guy kind of storming up and down the hall, and he's saying things like, "I want to go back to the house, man."
Yeah.
He's just going back and forth, and he turns violent as well.
Yep.
So basically what we're seeing here is this is a different hotel.
Yeah,
This is a different hotel.
room
So
2034.
Yeah, which is not going to be a hotel
It's
that
on the
is in the Gary, Indiana
yeah. So
region.
the hotel he
This,
showed is not this hotel that has at least 23 floors.
yeah, this is
Um,
a different hotel, and yet they're filming it in a sequence as though they're going back to the hotel, which is right near the demon house.
right.
And so, we did some investigation. I'm pretty sure to have a number that high, a hotel room that high, that it's in Las Vegas. Where else is it going to be? And from looking at the hall and from the shots and the images that they have, it really seems to me like it could potentially be. I thought the Bellagio, and I think Matt, you thought maybe the MGM.
MGM Grand. And we'll show you something here that kind of gives a little more into that. We found a couple of hotels in Vegas that would fit the bill. And this one, we go back into Zach's room. It's going to be a little hard to see here. But maybe I'll put in a brightened up picture of it.
You'll remember the previous room. The previous room was kind of white,
And
very
dinky.
Spartan. Yeah, you had a lamp and you had a couch.
This is swank. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is right over here is a stairway up to the loft. Okay.
Yeah, I counted the rooms. I counted the rooms. There are 4 bedrooms there. And
we have a wine bar.
They've got a bar area. They've got a kitchen area and a dining room. So this is not a little hotel that's
this is not in that hotel that he showed, which means
why this is fakery is that you have the cameraman saying, I want to go back to the house, man. Take me back to the house. I want to go back to the house.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have to fly back there. I mean, it was out of sequence, and clearly
it's not
this
an Uber ride,
filmed,
right? Yeah,
this was filmed afterwards. I mean, that's how it looks to us.
And
here, Matt, you've got a little bit more evidence.
Yeah,
there.
I'm just going to show this a little bit here. This is the hallway, and they show. Oops, if I can find it here. Boop.
That's a long hallway. Wow.
That, and it's not like a comic, like a cartoon where they're replaying the same footage.
Right. It's not,
we slowed it down, and it is one continuous hallway all the way down. So yeah, that
looks like a tower in a hotel in Las Vegas. That's
again, we got Bellagio, we've got MGM Grand as possibilities, and probably several others. So yeah, that is just not in Gary, Indiana, or anywhere nearby. It's not even in Chicago. We looked at all the hotels in Chicago. None of those fit the bill. So all of this drama that this guy was going through was filmed after the fact and is nothing but acting. Is 100%.
Well, we know that Zach lives in Vegas too. So
yeah, also true. But this film's funny in a way for our Debates on a True Story series, because most of these movies are fictionalized versions of allegedly real events.
Right.
But this one, it plays more like reality TV, which is not reality. But, that whole idea
scripted.
Of Veritas is what you're seeing is what's really happened. And there's so many cuts and changes and deceptiveness and plausibly completely fabricated sections to this film. It's just unlike any of the others we've looked at. So
it really is.
It is. Well, I think that we're done with all of that. I think we should just get straight to the climax.
Well, I think for that we need to talk about, because he says we see what room number that they go in, which
2034.
2034. And he says, and 2 floors above me, Barry Taft is having a hard time. And so it's however high up they were. Yeah. There's still 2 more floors on top, at the very least. So this is a big place. And then that's when, Barry talks about how everything was so rough on him. They got him in a hospital bed, with the thing on his finger. And he's like, markets just started shutting down. They just out of nowhere, they just started shutting down.
Well, what they're trying to do here is to build up a case that this place is dangerous, that there've been many incidents in the house of people who've merely spent time in there, who have then become suicidal, or they've had accidents, motorcycle accidents. Their organs have shut down. I mean, he's really creating this.
The priest crashed on his bicycle.
Yeah.
Explain that, skeptics.
I shouldn't laugh. Poor
And
guy.
he wasn't hurt. So
they're-
yeah.
They're really creating this kind of laundry list of all of these cases and claims to build up to this climax. So
Mhm.
let's
Yeah.
go
Well,
into that. This is basically
Yeah.
where
So-
Zach is going to spend time in the house by
So-
himself.
Right, but what we see is the house being boarded up. They got a plywood being screwed onto all the windows.
Like they're going to
and
have a
everything.
hurricane or
But
something.
it
Yeah.
is literally like a 1/4 inch plywood. It's real thin.
Well, was prepared to be bored.
Yeah. And
Indeed,
so they're doing that. And who's there? Well, Officer Charles. What you doing?
Oh,
And
I
immediately
love what he says.
it's beautiful. He's like, if you run into any problems, call me, and then I'll call the fire department. Not just call the fire department, call me, so I can
And
be
I'll
here to
call
get on
someone
camera,
else.
and then I'll call someone else to come break you out. So that was another really brilliant move on that. But yes, he goes inside, and then they drill the last piece over the front door, and they've staged it. They've staged the house with furniture because it was
And
all
a
empty.
doll, a
It was.
spooky doll. I
A
don't know what
spooky
the doll's
doll.
for.
Yeah.
So this
it's-
is like the paranormal lockdown portion of the story,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yes, but it is the board
Or the paranormal screw job, I guess, in a way, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But this is where he gets his evidence. So what does he find? What does he encounter? Well, there are footsteps. So I think he's sitting on the bed and he hears footsteps, and they sound very loud
and very close.
very close. It really just sounds like
Cowboy boots on hardwood floor.
Yeah, it seems like they filmed, recorded someone doing that within the house before they boarded it up. And then
Or somebody was in there with him.
EVPs, he recorded a number of EVPs, which throughout the documentary, they do record a number of EVPs that they prime you by telling you on the screen, this is what you're going to hear. Oh, yeah, it sounds exactly like that.
Well, but the thing is all these EVPs were saying the exact things you would imagine a demon would say. Who's that? Was
Run, Latoya.
Run, Latoya. That was nobody, and I was like, Run, Latoya. I mean, it was totally.
She was gone.
That's
I mean,
exactly
she
what a
hadn't been
demon
there.
would say.
She hadn't been there for years at that point.
And then there was one where the was it so Officer Charles went to a gas station, and his AM radio switched to static, and he heard a voice say, "Who there?" Now that's exactly what a demon would say, because a demon doesn't know who you are.
They're
So
very
it's gonna ask.
assuming, yeah.
It's gonna ask.
But
It's gonna ask.
there's more. So there's footsteps. There are EVPs, and then there's a roar, a really loud roar.
Yeah, really loud roar. I think there was an
It
EVP that
sounds-
said, "Where you going?" Or something's wrong. I mean, again, all these
Yeah.
textbook demon things to say.
And then finally, we have the dark mass that appears. Now, the funny thing is, Matt and I, we're watching it, and they keep missing these orbs. There are like these orbs around the room, and that's like garden variety.
Yeah, it's a bread and butter.
Ghost hunting stuff, and yet they're avoiding these orbs, and there's this kind of black mass. I mean, what would you say that would be?
Well, his camera is sitting on the bed towards the doorway to the bedroom, and suddenly it's completely out of focus. You can't see anything on it other than different shades of light, and somebody walks in front of it. Ooh, a black mass.
Mhm.
But it could have been him. It could have been anything. Yeah,
exactly. He might have just went in front of the camera, and there was the black mass. And then he's freaking out. He's screaming. He runs into the living room. And he throws the TV on the floor like a total tantrum. And then he goes. There's several times throughout the documentary, he is wearing his glasses. Except for times when his eyes need to hurt. And then he's like, "Oh, my eyes are hurting."
And doing the eye rolling thing that Blake was doing so perfectly earlier. And his eyes are rolling around, and and then he starts. He refers to it as excruciating eye pain.
And he's like, "Ow!"
Yeah.
Ow. Ow.
And so then he does
Ow.
his voiceover and he explains what's happening here. So basically,
Turns out I have
he
cyclopsia.
So at this point, he has to leave the house because he has diplopia. And what's that?
I had a dog that did that.
So it's basically double vision, which is serious, no doubt. It's serious. But we've seen Zak over the years wearing glasses, spectacles, reading glasses, eyeglasses a lot. So I think he's had problems with his eyes because in previous years he didn't wear glasses. And, you know, I uncharitably, I thought maybe he was wearing them to look smarter.
Does work. Look at me and Blake right
as
now.
some people do. Yeah, well, yeah. You just look like you're mocking
Can you
Blake.
expand on that, Karen?
Actually, now you look like Pedro Pascal. So good work.
So that's what happens. Basically, we have this litany of all of these claims and these stories and these misfortunes and accidents and people being sick, and now it culminates in Zak and his double vision.
You know, and he says that basically the demons have made him go cross-eyed. And you would think that demons wouldn't want to have anything to do with crosses, even if it's your eyes.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah,
yeah. Really good point.
Like a Siamese cat, and he's pulling some faces.
Yeah.
But so anyway, so then we come to the finale. And I do think that, you know, this is kind of well played, really, because Zak is up against Netflix and their $65 million that they're going to invest into this movie or documentary or drama or whatever it's going to be. So what does Zak do? He takes his toys home, takes his toys and leaves, and he demolishes the friggin' place. So yeah, I thought that, you know, what are you going to do? But I think
to film on location now, bitch.
Yeah,
exactly. But I think that it is kind of, I think he's given the idea earlier on when some cops turn up to the house and they're talking about everything that's going on there and saying this has got to be a portal to something. There's something under there. You should demolish it. You should just raise this to the ground. But then what would you be unleashing? So that is an interesting theory. I mean, if you demolish a place like that, if you believe in this kind of thing, what are you unleashing?
Yeah, he said, what is that? What is that house plugging? If that's a gateway to hell there, what is that? The house plugging up? You know, if you destroy the house, is that just going to be a free for all? So
yeah, which I think leads us into the movie poster.
Yeah.
If you want to mention
that is interesting. I mean, I don't know if you want to throw those graphics up
and
somewhere.
I don't have, does anybody else have them? I
put them in chat or in our text SMS.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. So
let me
probably can't
grab
see
those.
It.
Yeah,
we'll grab them.
There we go. So.
La 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 la.
But it really is quite a spectacle to see the place getting demolished. And it's
and then he talks about.
But then,
go ahead.
Well, then he says, "Well, you know, first and foremost, I'm a collector. Collector of what?" But that he keeps the basement stairs, which I thought was a strange choice, and a bucket of dirt. So wouldn't that really be unleashing a lot of this on him? And
the video has him putting his hand in the dirt. That is so.
Well, he has to sleep on his native soil now, I think, is how that works.
So. Yeah, the vampire. Yeah.
But so this house, that the real house appears to be a single, so one-story ranch style with a little screened-in porch. And then on the movie cover, what they have is a house with gables. It looks like there's rooms upstairs. There's windows upstairs. This does not appear to be the same house. I do not understand why they've got this spooky house on the cover of the movie.
I know why.
But
remember his dream at the beginning?
Okay.
Yes. Where the goat man was? Beelzebub.
Yeah. Right, the 12-foot tall demon. Yeah.
Yep.
He was
That's the
in his
one.
house. He was in that house, and it was like all half
He was in that
torn
house
up,
because
and
it has higher ceilings. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly. He'd be bumping his
Most
horns.
demons can't. Like if you look at a standard 8-foot ceiling, a 12-foot tall demon is really going to be inconvenienced.
Yeah.
I don't know what the equivalent of the ADA is for demons, but yeah. So
yeah, because a
Yeah.
demon is
Well,
not as impressive when they're squatting,
no.
and then the house already had squatters, so.
but there's a kind of postscript to this where Zach is doing his kind of monologue, and he's talking about how the police are keeping an eye on the property because I believe he still owns it. Again, I think it's this kind of power play that he's because he does talk with this producer, and he kind of threatens him and says, "Don't you threaten me?" And so there's this back and forth. So you really get a sense that he is just trying to. It's a one-upmanship kind of thing. But he says at the end that the police are keeping an eye on the land, the lot, and they've noticed lots of people performing satanic rituals on the land.
As they do, yeah.
Which is like what preschool when it comes to belief in that kind of thing. I mean,
Gary, Indiana sounds more like scary Indiana.
You've been waiting a while for that one, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been holding it.
I was making my notes late last night, and I've actually written Santa rituals. So.
You did, yeah.
But the final point that I make in our notes is something that he says, and so he says, ultimately, this story is cursed. And I just thought that was strange because normally you talk about people being cursed or places being cursed, but stories being cursed. It's a little strange grammar, but that's basically how it ends. It kind of ends abruptly.
It may have been just a mishearing of words, like there's a wino down the road. It could be a thing like that, fleas on my dog, because it could be that let me get on the right side here, that he was saying that this story is false.
Malapropism,
not cursed.
True.
So that's what I'm
story's made up.
Maybe
made up.
Because at the beginning he says this film is cursed, and at the end he says this story is cursed. And I find that interesting.
I found it interesting that when he's doing his intro to the story, it sounds like it's going to be this sort of poetic introduction. And then like right at the end, he just drops an F-bomb. You're like, oh, no, this is not this poetic thing that I thought it was going to be. This is just going to be straight up reality TV, shock value. This is my shock value. That's it
is uncensored. I mean, lots of F-bombs, lots of B words.
He could have saved a lot of money if he had just used your version of.
I know. Because that's Spielberg and I are working something out. Yeah,
it
exactly.
Is just as effective. Yeah.
It's like, dinosaurs.
So it is just such an interesting reinterpretation of the original story. He's really made it. Excuse me. Zach has really made this story his own. He's really. But at the same time, following the original storyline, but just with people who didn't have to sign non-disclosure contracts, I guess.
Right.
So he's. Right. Anyway, what do we think of the film?
Well, if you don't mind, I want to share this again while we talk about that.
I don't like the trend in the paranormal right now about hitchhikers, baggage, like if you go to a place, it'll stick to you. It's just not a fan. It's like so much of what happens in paranormal world. I guess there's people who do like serious investigations, but the bigger is there's sort of that middle ground people who like to go do legend tripping and that sort of thing. This just gives them nightmare fodder if they think that they go do these things and it's going to just stick to them. And it bugs me. But I don't like it. It's a bad trend. We'd like to see that stop. Don't think it's going anywhere. So.
But in terms of the movie, I had a quote somewhere. If you'll bear with me, I think I texted it. So a couple of quotes about the movie. So Steve Barton of Dread Central said that the film was one of the single most compelling documentaries on the existence of the supernatural that I've ever witnessed. Right?
Yeah.
And that's a counterpart to Noel Murray, who wrote for the Los Angeles Times. And he said Zach Bagans documentary Demon House is essentially an uncensored, overlong episode of his long-running travel channel series Ghost Adventures. And while this particular paranormal investigation may terrify the more credulous among Bagans' fan base, skeptics are likely to feel bored, as you said, Blake, and confused.
That's
I think there
as
was a
I
lot
feel.
of confusion there with theories. I mean, a lot
Bored
of
and Confused
mishmash
is
of
the
ghost
far less successful sequel to
hunting.
Dazed and Confused, right?
Yes.
It's like,
But I mean, you do have such an interesting
all wrong,
concoction
all
here,
wrong, all wrong. So
an interesting blend
Nice,
of
nice.
demonology and ghost hunting, new age beliefs, voodoo. It's got it all.
Mhm.
But it's, grab yourself some popcorn and watch it if you can.
Yep.
If you
And it
can get
has
through it.
the musical, stingers on all
oh,
dramatic.
all over the place.
But
Yeah.
yeah, wherever there's a place that you're supposed to realize that this is dramatic, they help you out with the
That they do.
musical stinger.
They prime you in every way.
It's like they slow down to a stop and then, oh. So you're never, confused as to what they're trying to convey because they hit you over the head with it.
Indeed. Repeatedly.
Yeah. Yeah. Bluntly. Yeah, exactly. So, well, I didn't like this. So there you go.
Oh, enough said. Yeah, likewise. Yeah. What about you,
well,
Matt?
we watched it twice. So we liked it
Well, we watched it
less.
and then we kind of forgot about it and
Mhm.
tried to forget about it and then thought, okay, Dotes is up. Like we better familiarize ourselves again.
something.
And it was difficult to watch a second time. It was difficult to watch a first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
I don't
is.
know. I'm fascinated by claims of the paranormal, but this story always struck me as being more of a tragic family circumstances, tragic economic circumstances,
Yes.
tragic excesses of credulity, a failure of leadership and authorities within the community, a hyper dose of superstition.
And a kind of
and then
copycat of other movies like The Exorcist.
Yeah. And then tack onto that some just great,
Amityville.
just good old American cash grab. So
Mhm.
yeah, this is just sad. Anyway, I look forward to revisiting this whenever the Netflix version comes out. That'll be grand. So yeah,
It will be.
Yes, let's see. Let's see
Do
what
it
they
again.
do with it. But yeah, that we know that one will feature LaToya.
And that one should be a
She
mini
did not
Yay.
run. Yeah.
or at least it'll be her story and she gets a payment. I don't know how they'll go, but I hope somebody who was more deserving. Nothing against Mr. Baggins, but I hope someone who's like at the heart of the story benefits from this a little bit. So
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's the best part of the movie.
well,
you will
at the end-
He looks
rewind
like
it
a-
and watch it over.
He looks like a dock worker with arthritis.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
But it is worth watching that bit. Just that lunge is it's comical. It really is.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Well,
bet he
there
wins
you
an
go.
award.
So on that note, thank you for joining us, and please do like this show and subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment for us as well.
Do
Tell
the
us what you
things.
think. Have you seen
Check
it?
out our Patreon, patreon.com/monster talk. Give
Yeah.
us some money. Why
We
not?
appreciate your
Please.
support. We really do. We love you
We do.
guys.
Yeah, you guys have helped out so much. It's been wonderful.
I mean, you guys will listen to us when my wife won't.
Cut.
Have a good one.
Bye, everyone.